Okay, I'm going to call to order a meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee on Tuesday, March 6, 2018, at 8:08 p.m. And if the clerk would call the roll, please.
Alderman Jettie?
Here.
Alderman Tenza?
Present.
Alderman Laws?
Okay.
Alderman Schmidt? Alderwoman Melissa Goya?
And I am present. Okay, so not in attendance, Alderman Laws. I
He's here.
thought he was here.
He's here.
Okay, all right, well. And also in attendance, we have Alderman Gidge, Alderman Dowd, Director Cummings, and Director Marchant. And, oh, I'm sorry, and Alderwoman Klee. Public comment, I see none. We have a presentation by Mr. Shea from Great America Downtown, and I am not quite sure.
He's right out in the hallway.
Thank you very much.
I do not believe Alderman Lopez is coming back.
So I was just talking, I'm going to say it's John out back. The feed for this, there's a switch at the desk for source.
I know.
Oh, okay. I know.
We'll try right.
And while Mr. Shea is getting set up, Alderman O'Brien, are you joining us?
No, I'm going to be taking.
Okay, I just was going to invite you to one of the empty seats.
I appreciate it.
We will miss you. While Paul is getting his presentation together, as many of you know, Paul is the executive director of Great America Downtown. And prior to the mayor's State of the City address, Paul did a presentation for the Great American Downtown annual meeting. And as he indicated then, and I'm sure he will indicate again this evening, the city does give money to Great American Downtown. Very early on, it was a fairly sizable contribution to their budget, and as they have been more successful in generating funds, the percentage that they receive from the city, although it has remained constant, has decreased in terms of a percentage of their budget. And so as part of just making sure the board and the community is aware of all of the events that go on through Great American Downtown, we have asked Mr. Shea to come here and present to PEDC. So Paul, whenever you are ready.
Thank you so much. I have a suspicion that it's set to the channel relative to the mayor's desk versus this one.
So, horseshoe left.
Yeah, try the left. Try the left.
Is it in all the way?
It's on the left. Yet.
Try them all.
Yeah, try the.
Try the right again.
It's not that one.
The cheat sheet is right underneath that monitor that tells you how to do those ones.
It should be horseshoe.
That's as much as I know. Sorry.
Horseshoe right.
Next Desk.
It's that one. That's one we. Or should I, can you try and like F7, resend it to?
I think that might,
No.
that may be it.
Yeah. No,
This
you
is-
don't, there it is.
There we go.
There it is.
Great job.
Okay, whatever happened.
All right. So it looks like we are on VGA here. So my name is Paul Shea. I'm the Executive Director for Great American Downtown. I want to thank Chairwoman Melise Goya for having me here tonight and inviting us to share what we do here in the community. So Great American Downtown, who are we? So we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that promotes economic and cultural vibrancy in downtown Nashua through creative marketing and great community events. Our mission of vibrancy is our purpose is to provide coordination, collaboration, and partnerships that unify the entire Nashua community around a common vision for an attractive downtown that is vibrant, viable, and truly reflects the character of our city. We were founded in 2002. The organization entity actually dates back to the late 1980s as a downtown development corporation, which was repurposed during the early 2000s as part of the National Main Street Program movement. Great American Downtown competed among many communities in the state of New Hampshire to become a Main Street community. At that time, we were not awarded the designation. It was limited to a particular small number of communities. The folks who were responsible for that initiative felt that we ought march forth still and work to enhance and highlight the vibrancy of our community regardless of the state of that designation. And so shortly thereafter, in the summer of 2002, we were formed, and we were formed by a group of business owners, community members, leaders, and folks who believe in the promise of our downtown. Our board of directors consists of Cheryl Lindner, who is our board president, Chelsea Dennis, our vice president, Lori Galbo, second vice president, Ryan Ruggiero from Triangle Credit Union is our treasurer, Carrie Gleason from The Nature of Things, our secretary. Our bylaws for our organization are unique in that there are provisions for a designee of the police chief, a designee of the fire chief, and a designee of the mayor. And in that, we maintain a direct line of communication with important stakeholders to the success of our downtown. The designee of the fire chief is Deputy Chief Glenn McDonald. Sergeant Kerry Baxter is the designee of the police chief, and Economic Development Director Tim Cummings is the designee of the mayor's office. Also on our board, Mary Lou Blaisdell of Design Wares and the Downtown Improvement Committee, Deb Rapsis of Paciello Marketing Group, Carol Iman of Iman Communications in the Nashua Public Library, Alderman Tom Lopez, who was added to our board of directors prior to his election to the Board of Aldermen because of his enthusiasm for our downtown and activism. James Veo similarly was added to our board of directors prior to working with the mayor's office due to his interest in our downtown, as well as Steve Sachs from Alpha Graphics. Our staff, and I am Paul Shea, I'm the executive director. Our arts coordinator, who started in late 2016, is Ben Rudick. He's also the creative director for Riverwalk Cafe and Music Bar. And we have leveraged his contacts and talents to expand our scope of arts and music programming. Our marketing coordinator is Carolyn Wally. And what we are and what we have been known for. So for many years, starting in the early 2000s, Great American adopted a number of programs that were really grassroots community initiatives, that rose out of a number of sources, some in some ways out of economic development, including the Winter Holiday Stroll, The Taste of Downtown goes back 25 years as well. The Nashua Farmers Market goes back about that far too, and so Great American Downtown was the coordinating entity, and the market was previously managed by a board for the Nashua Farmers Market organization. Downtown marketing and events have also always been a part of the work that we do. How we have grown. We have worked diligently and tirelessly for the past several years to really grow the extent of programming that we offer to the community. You may be familiar with many of these, but I'll run through them quickly. The Downtown Scarecrows program, the Gate City Community Gardens program was adopted in 2016 by Great American Downtown. Dinner on Main Street, Eat Local Month promotion, Nashua Farmers Market, Nashua Street Pianos, the Nashua Downtown Parks Cleanup Day. We've been involved in coordinating a selection group for holiday lighting for the past 2 seasons. We put on a Let Freedom Ring patriotic picnic and sing-along at Rotary Common. We initiated the New Muse Arts Festival this past spring. We've done extensive Pokemon Go promotions. There are some businesses that actually reported a 9% increase steadily over the course of the first year that that game came out. And so we've done a good bit of coordinating meetup events that have had some great success and attention in the media. Celebration of Democracy event in partnership with Nashua's Indian community and Representative Latham Menjapudi. The New England Roots Festival, which was basically formed out of a fall music festival. We worked to further brand the concept of the event as we really caught a stride with it this past fall. We've done a number of cultural festivals and have also supported highlighting cultural festivals put on by other groups. The Chocolate Stroll took place a second time this spring, or winter, if you will. Chairs to Share, the colorful Adirondack chairs that are throughout downtown is an initiative of Great American Downtown. Bollywood on a Blanket, which was a 6-film Bollywood series, Bollywood movie series put on outdoors at Bicentennial Park, the tiny pocket park next to the Main Street Bridge. And we also have worked a good deal to grow our newsletter list and the extent of content that we offer, not just highlighting our programs, but those of many other groups and businesses that make our tapestry of vibrancy very rich. Our audience is another way that we have grown extensively in the past year. This is part of an ongoing effort to build the extent to which we communicate all that is downtown Nashua to community members and folks from outside of Nashua who might like to come visit. So our newsletter list has grown from 4,500 to 5,300. Our Facebook page has grown in the past year from 7,080 to 8,737. And our Twitter and Instagram are really secondary social platforms as far as the extent to which we use them to promote programs and vibrancy. But we also have a handle on Twitter and Instagram, and that is @Downtown Nashua. 2017, our website saw a full overhaul, downtownnashua.org. We added an Eat and Shop directory, focus on downtown living, a focus on local to highlight our community garden program, the Dinner on Main Street, which is a farm-to-table event, as well as the Nashua Farmers Market. A central community calendar, which imports sources, imports content from over 60 sources, various Facebook pages of community partners and other organizations and businesses, hyperlocal blog content, and our website in its first full year of operation saw a total of 57,000 unique visitors for a total of 83,000 visits. This just displays the calendar. The text is very tiny from where we are sitting, but basically it demonstrates that we have a depth of content populated there. This is a resource that the community has been asking for some time. The act of managing a central calendar previously was a very tireless thing, almost not worth it and unwieldy, but through the power of modern technology, we have been able to find a tool that imports the content automatically, leaving the content creators, that would be the nonprofits, et cetera, responsible for creating the content and automatically importing and updating the content that lives on those calendars on a daily basis. So this has made it possible for us to provide this, and it's one of the highest traffic areas of the website. In 2017, we grew the Nashua Street Pianos program to a total of 3 pianos on display along Main Street. This has been a well-loved program, and it's really great to see folks spontaneously interact with the pianos and also each other as a result of that program and what it provides. The Gate City Community Gardens program last year, we expanded to 12 additional garden beds. This past fall, we received an expansion of that lease, which is a piece of property along the Nashua Heritage Rail Trail from the Board of Aldermen for future expansion. And likely this fall, we will look to continue to grow that space in preparation for the 2019 season. Our Nashua Downtown Parks Cleanup Day is coordinated each year on the Saturday nearest to Earth Day. And we put that event on in partnership with the Police Athletic League and Parks and Recreation and a number of businesses who send out staff, Rivier University and others. This past year, this was the third iteration of that event. In year one, we had about 85 people. Year two, we had about 150. This past year, we had at least 250 volunteers. And that does not even include perhaps over 100 volunteers that Comcast brought out to Mine Falls that day as well. So it was really exceptional. We were able to expand out to the Riverwalk, Library Walk, the grounds of the library, the Court Street Theater property, and even send groups out to a couple of pocket parks in the neighborhoods, including Salem Street Tot Lot and Park Social. So we are doing that again this year on April 21st. The Nashua Farmers Market has grown extensively. The market, going back to about 2014, was approximately 6 to 8 vendors. Through the help of the USDA Farmers Market Promotion Program grant, in partnership with the Nashua Regional Planning Commission, we executed roughly $35,000 in advertisement and equipment purchases to support the market, as well as add the feature of SNAP EBT acceptance at the market. Along with that, we also partner with the New Hampshire Food Bank to offer Granite State Market Match, which is a program that provides dollar-for-dollar match for spend on a SNAP or EBT benefit card. So if somebody spends $10 on their card, they actually get $10 in wooden tokens from me or whomever might be staffing that booth this summer. And they get to get their fresh local fruits and veggies for cheaper than non-local products might cost at the farmer's market. We've also grown the chocolate stroll. This year we had about 475 people attend that event, which was tremendous. The 2 years prior, we had about 120 to 150 people at that event. So we saw big growth with that event as well. New for 2018. So in this coming year, we'll look to continue to grow our programming through the addition of the Merrimack Valley Battle of the Bands event. This event will be our third music festival in the total year of programs. There will be, we're hoping to attract area talent from throughout the Merrimack Valley to submit applications to compete in this event. There will be a online voting component to narrow that field down to a total of 18 competitors, and the finalist on the voting on the day of the event will be awarded an album recording, along with listing fees for getting their music up on Spotify and iTunes and other platforms, as well as a print run of CDs. So it's a really great prize. We're hoping to really stimulate local youth music culture around this event, build connections, and help to create an original piece of artwork. That event will be July 21st, and we are very excited about that. The application should be available around May 1st, so folks that are interested in that can keep an eye on our newsletter and our website. We also, this past year, executed our first piece of community theater called The Last 5 Years. It was a musical theater piece with 2 actors, and it was really well attended. We had over 450 people come over the course of the presenting weekend. For 2018, because of this success, we will look to create an opportunity for community theater folks to present proposals for a show for September of this year. And applications for that will be available on April 1st. We hope to get a lot of great applications and review them and make a selection and present some community theater again this year. Also, this year is new for something that's new for us is Over the Edge. Over the Edge is a program put on in partnership with the United Way. We will have 6 board and staff members as well as volunteers who are going over the edge of the 24-story Brady Sullivan Tower. They will be raising funds to support Gate City Community Gardens, and we hope to raise around $5,000 to $7,000 through that initiative for that expansion that I had mentioned earlier. We are also partnering with Grow Nashua, which is a great group led by Justin Monroe, and that's a program of the United Way. Justin's done some really great work with a lot of community partners around food resiliency in the Nashua community. We're going to work with Justin and his team for gardening education, permaculture installation. Permaculture is the use of permanent or semi-permanent food plants like fruit trees or blueberry bushes, etc., in a space where it will thrive and require minimal maintenance and will provide free, accessible food for folks who are casually walking up the rail trail. They might have a bite to eat. The garden applications for Gate City Community Gardens are now available. They are due in by March 20th, and we still have a few beds available. I'm actually talking with Justin about the prospect of adding additional beds this spring in the event that our supply of beds cannot meet demand for this season. In the event that we get many applications and are able to go ahead and execute that, we will strive to do that this spring. So how are we funded? We are funded by the City of Nashua. We are funded by sponsors for events, as well as through various media opportunities like a newsletter sponsorship and premium listings on our website. We also receive individual contributions, which is a growing area of our budget. It's still small, but this is something that we have been working towards as we build our audience. We believe that there are many people in the community that believe in our programming and are happy to make a donation to make these programs and offerings possible. We also have an opportunity for folks to sign up to donate or become monthly sustained donors at downtownnashua.org/donate. So I'm here tonight to talk with you all, and I've added a couple of slides here to cover the extent to which we have been funded by the City of Nashua in recent history, and how that is represented as a percentage of our total operating actual reporting. So in 2014, and going back for a number of years, we've received support to the tune of $35,000 for general operating. In 2014, the total actual operating cost was $102,604.65, which the city support represented approximately 34.1%. In 2015, This was my first year with the organization with the 35,000 and the total operating actual 104, 544.64. That amount was reduced slightly to 33.48%. In 2016, we saw a significant reduction. And so in 2016, we received our general operating support. We also received $9,000 in funding for a pilot fall music festival, which became the New England Roots Festival in 2017. And that was through an escrow allocation for the 17-18 budget. We also received $20,000 in holiday lighting support, 10 of which was from the Downtown Improvement Committee, and 10 of which was through the escrow process. So total operating actual for that year increased to 194,258 and 3 cents. That's 32.95%. But if you remove the lighting from the equation, which was really a dollar for dollar scenario, the actual percentage reflects more along the lines of 25.25%. In 2017, we received $35,000 for general operating. We received $15,000 as a pilot for the New Muse Festival by way of the Downtown Improvement Committee. Our total operating actual for this past year was $229,615.75, which shows a further reduction in percentage, even with the addition of the Downtown Improvement Committee funding to 21.78%. For our 2018 budget year, we have budgeted to receive the same amount of general operating, and we have also budgeted for receiving $20,000, which was allocated last fall through the escrow process to support the music festival series. The total operating budget for this present year is $245,740. And that represents a 22.38% level of support from city as a matter of total operating. Some considerations that you see that there's a slight increase from 17 to 18. All of the previous budget years reflected here show actuals, whereas 2018 is a it hasn't happened, of course. And so in a very conservative manner of budgeting, this is the way that the numbers shake out. It may be further reduced when we actually get down to how the events and the total year and organization perform. Also worth consideration as we see the slight increase is that from 2016 and 2017 budget years, we had approximately $15,000 to $18,000 under each of those years. That was the USDA Farmers Market Promotion Program grant, and that was a 2-year grant, which we are not exercising in 2018. Of course, we have significantly increased our sponsor and participation revenues for that program, and so we will be quite fine to keep up the level of promotions that we were doing. But that is worth consideration too, because total operating with that would be somewhere in the ballpark of $260,000, and that percentage would be further reduced. So the value of our work, we work to highlight the vibrancy of our community. There's a good bit in that is a matter of perception. I'm of the mindset that downtown Nashua is a place that has a lot of cultural richness independent of our programming, and part of the work that we do that is just as important as the programs that we put on is communicating other offerings to the public. With the modern way that we communicate, social media, screens everywhere, it's tough to get folks' undivided attention. But still, each week, we see 1,300 to 1,600 people open our newsletter, and a few thousand seeing the things that we post on social media. And so in those moments, when we are communicating with folks, we try to make sure that they understand that there are a lot of great things to explore and give them the opportunity to find out and choose things that suit their needs and interests. Our Facebook group, Facebook page rather, in 2017 reached 212,000 people with a total of 2.1 million impressions. Each of those an opportunity to create the perception in the mind of the viewer that our downtown is truly a vibrant place, which it is. But it's just a matter of getting folks to be aware of that and feel good about it. Again, our website saw 57,000 people, individuals visiting for a total of 82,000 visits. And that line doesn't belong there. The real impact of our organization, service impact. We had over 4,000 hours of service in 2017. Somewhere around 1,600 of those were on the Downtown Parks Cleanup Day. But over the course of the year, we contribute a good bit by way of service that people provide through us. If you look at the value of volunteer hour, organizations peg that at somewhere around $25 to $27, the cash value of someone taking their time to provide service to the community. And those service hours, of course, have their tangible direct benefit. But if you mark it down to dollars and cents, 4,000 hours looks roughly like $100,000 of impact value-wise on the community. This is a rhetorical question, but how do you feel about downtown Nashua? How did you feel about downtown Nashua 5, 10 years ago? It's my belief that the work that we do makes people feel good about downtown because they should. And the more that people are aware about the reasons that they should, the more that they truly do, and the more that our community's reputation improves within our community, but also from without. And measuring economic impact as a matter of real impact in 2018 is one of our objectives. This past holiday stroll, we conducted a post-event survey to, for the first time, really seek to measure that impact. And I'll get into that on the next slide. So measuring economic impact for the 2017 Winter Holiday Stroll, the Americans for the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study, which is a lot of the economic data that folks have been discussing in relation to the Performing Arts Center, in relation to doing the work of figuring out this impact. Rochester, Concord, New Hampshire, the Monadnock region have all engaged in this arts and economic prosperity study through the Americans for the Arts. The next cycle for that study, so this is the 2015 report, the next cycle for that study would be the 2020 report year, so that would be the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6 study. That calculator, plugging in the data for the holiday stroll with an attendance number of 30,000. Now, the Fire Marshal's office believes that this past year's event was the highest attended event in the history of the holiday stroll. Now, making crowd size projections is a challenge. People are moving around. Density changes from space to space depending on the timing of the event. But we have a great degree of confidence that that number for attendance for that event was 30,000 at a minimum, and it could have been as high as 42,000. But for the sake of this discussion, we're using the number 30,000, and that's the number that AFA gives us. Based on our survey, we found an average spend of $27.69 per our feedback. Now, we had about 165 respondents. Of that, the numbers are tiny up there, but of that, 128 of those provided us with spend information. So if you are a data wonk, I can send you this information, certainly, to pour through, but I won't bore you with the details. But we had a data analytics person with a master's degree in data analytics from UNH. Her name is Haley Bodwell. I worked with her to review this data and really punch it in and give us an idea of the statistical confidence that we can have. And the really exciting thing was that the data indicated numbers that were very close as the mean for impact to the economic prosperity calculator. And so to me, that means that we can have a fair degree of confidence in our data, but also as a matter of reflecting back to the Americans for the Arts data, the fact that our numbers line up with their projections well gives me a greater degree of confidence in their projections and a greater degree of using that information to make decisions about the economic impact for the arts. So it's a further layer of support for that info when we're talking about various projects and how they could benefit Nashua. Measuring economic impact in 2018, as I mentioned, that's an objective of ours. The chocolate stroll attendance, we are looking to we send out a survey. I'm working with Rivier University business students to produce a survey for attendees, which will be going out at some point this week or next to get data on that event. And what we'll do is I'll hopefully have a more robust set of numbers for you for next year at this time to kind of further dig into economic impact for PEDC. That's of course a focus here. The projected impacts for music festivals, I just wanted to kind of touch on that. We will be working to get the data in a similar fashion to our post-event surveys for the holiday stroll for these events. But just as a matter of perspective and value of these events, based on the Americans for the Arts calculator for a 2,000-person music festival, you'd be looking at approximately $73,800 in economic impact, of which, not including the $15,000 direct event cost. So when you discuss economic impact of arts organizations and programs, there's a consumer spend side to it, but there's also the direct spend of the organization that goes to various businesses that are a part of these events. So the $73,000 represents community economic stimulus as a result of the event. The 15 would be in addition to that 73 for a total impact. Should we have great fortune and great weather and attract 5,000 people, which I believe is achievable as the events continue to build, these events can have a very significant impact, upwards of $200,000. So the 5,000 person impact would be 172,000 roughly. I'd project that to accommodate entertainment for that many more people, the event budget would increase a good bit to 25,000. And altogether, for a 5,000 person music festival, you're looking at a projected economic impact of $200,000. So coming up in this year, we have worked with Economic Development, City of Nashua, sat in with the Downtown Improvement Committee to be a great partner in the wayfinding signage package project, which Economic Development has really put a great deal of attention into, as well as the Downtown Improvement Committee. That'll be coming about. I believe it'll be initiated this year, and that should really help folks who are unfamiliar with our downtown find their way, as well as improve the sense of physical quality of the environment, which is directly tied to the way that people perceive our downtown and by way of our downtown, our community. Photo murals, we have worked with Downtown Improvement Committee on a project to get a set of photo murals up and down Main Street. Photographer Bob Betancourt, who I met at Judge Bell's one day, and he was showing me his photos, and he's got like hundreds and hundreds of fantastic photos. And so a lot of the floral images that you see on the 201 Main Street building, the old Jordan's luggage space, the old Indian Head Bank building, Those photos were actually taken along the Riverwalk and show a variety of plant life. I think one of them has a bumblebee, which is cute. And so those are really bright and fun and liven up the few remaining vacant spaces that we have. And so that was a great project to work on. As I mentioned earlier, we've worked to run a downtown holiday light committee, which was responsible for selecting the lit garland product as well as the lit orbs that are throughout downtown, and doubling down on that garland this year to brighten up downtown during the holidays. The illustration banners, we've served on. I have served on the artist selection committee for that project, which will be coming out this late spring sometime. The illustrations feature a variety of ways that Nashvans are active and engaged in the community, and it should be really special. The artist, his name is Don Higgins, that we selected. He's also responsible for the artwork at Holman Stadium. It's Newcomb and Campanella, I believe, the first integrated baseball team celebration murals at Holman, and he did a great job with those. So I'm looking forward to seeing the final product for that project. We have shared through our audience the resources for the riverfront planning exercise to bring the community to the conversation, which is part of our mission. Also, I've had absolutely nothing to do with this. In Great American Downtown, we'll be excited to promote it. Pay-by-phone parking is coming to downtown Nashua this year. So that's a really exciting thing on the horizon that the city is working on. Confidence in our downtown. I touched a couple of times tonight on perception. Perception is tremendously important. When someone is thinking about starting a business in downtown Nashua or moving here or establishing a development project, perception of the strength of our community and how those strengths can be leveraged to the success of business is fundamentally important when business owners are making these decisions. And it's my belief that our work enhances that a great deal. It's very difficult to quantify perception, but it's fundamentally important. New Hampshire Business Review had a great article, and the kind of tagline for the article last fall was "Energy, Commitment, and Collaboration Fuel Downtown Nashua as a Revival." And I cannot understate how true that one sentence is. The way that we work together and the quality of that is phenomenal between economic development, the Board of Aldermen, the Downtown Improvement Committee, Parks, DPW, city departments. Everybody is doing their thing, but also keeping in touch with each other to figure out how we can enhance and grow the things that we're doing and the success that we have as in the aggregate. And that's a really wonky way of saying it. It's great to have support, and it's an honor to support various initiatives that are going on. So thank you. So businesses that have reflected their confidence by getting started or growing here in downtown Nashua over this past year and a half, Snappett's Vintage, Tangled Roots Herbal. I'm not going to read through the list because I'm sure you've had plenty of time listening to me yabber on. So we'll skip ahead to new housing starts, which are exciting. The residents at Riverfront Landing are coming about. It's going to be 152 units, I believe. Lofts 34 at the Franklin Street Mill should be, I believe, up around 200 units when all is said and done. The Marshall Street project is going to be workforce housing off to the side of, it's across the street from the fire station on East Hollis. And that'll be 155 units of workforce housing. There's an RFP out for Spring Street, and I believe that there have been some bids in for that, potentially interest from a hotel chain. So that's really exciting. And the Performing Arts Center, of course, was supported by the Board of Aldermen and will be moving forward. The committee's got a big lift for fundraising, but I believe that they'll be successful. And that is something that is confidence inspiring. And I won't be the least bit surprised if projects like that, the riverfront development and enhancement, in various investments that the city steps up to make to reflect that they are a strong partner in business and in vibrancy in our downtown. I won't be surprised if that transcends to more interest from various businesses and developers. So that's the end of my presentation. I thank you. You probably went on for a good 45 minutes, so I really appreciate your attention and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, comments from anyone? Alderman Laws.
Thank you, Paul. Very informative, and I appreciate everything you do downtown. Uh, do you have a plan for helping, speaking of fundraising, the fundraising effort that needs to go forward for the Performing Arts Center?
So for Great American Downtown, we are, of course, a nonprofit organization, and for our own fiduciary responsibility, we've got to focus our fundraising largely on our programming and initiatives. However, I can support that as far as communicating opportunities to the public. City Arts Nashua, I know, is raising funds through the Mary Goyette Luncheon to support the program, the project rather, and we've already worked to highlight that. But whatever we can do to be a partner, I'm happy to do. But it's also important to bear in mind that we have to focus on our mission and programs first and foremost.
Director Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to follow up on the comments just made relative to the fundraising initiative. As some of you may know, this project, the Performing Arts Center project, has been a priority of my office, and since the question was raised, I'll give just a quick update relative to the progress since the vote here a few weeks back. So, since the passage of the bond here at the board, I have drafted an RFP to put out to consultants requesting assistance for a fundraising feasibility study, along with a person who would be willing to execute a fundraising campaign. This is in addition to a new markets tax credit RFP that has been issued. We're doing this in conjunction with the steering committee that was recently formulated. I believe the first meeting is actually on Thursday night here in this room at 7 p.m. It's open to the public. We will, as a group, start to outline our priorities and execute the charge that this body has given that committee, which is to develop a policy and strategic plan for the operations of the Performing Arts Center. Start with doing the design and understanding what the Performing Arts Center will look like from planning and construction. And then thirdly, understanding the $4 million fundraising will be a bigger effort than just the steering committee that's being formulated, but of course they will play a critical role in that initiative. And then lastly, the Downtown Improvement Committee set aside, as of right now, $50,000 to help with the consulting efforts that are going to be needed, so that won't be part of the bond. And we will probably need an additional set of money come the next fiscal year to help us with the soft costs associated with the moving the Performing Arts Center forward. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I might just comment, looking at the weather, if people are planning on attending the meeting on Thursday, they might want to check.
Absolutely.
Seems like the weather isn't being very friendly to us lately. Any other questions for Mr. Shea? Well, Paul, thank you.
Thank you so much. The support of the Board of Aldermen and the City of Nashua makes our work possible. So thank you guys for all that you do, and thank you for having me here tonight.
You're welcome, and thank you. You give us something else to do downtown, so thank you. Great. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a communication from Director Cummings, and if there are no objections, I would move to accept the communication and place it on file. And I'm referring to the overview of the TIF program that you received and was discussed earlier at our public hearing. Okay, so hearing none, we will place it on file. Unfinished business, we have none. New business resolutions, we have none. New business ordinances, I need a motion. Alderman Tenza?
I'd like to make a motion for final, or for, it's a final passage of
Yes.
O18006.
Okay, you've heard the motion by Alderman Tenza recommending final passage of 018-006. All those in, well, discussion. I'm sorry, we'll just move to. And I am sorry, I am going to let Alderman Jettie continue. So Alderman Jettie, please.
So getting back to the questions I was asking before, just to clarify, the
Here we go.
the taxes on the in the TIF area, the property owners in the TIF area, will they be paying the same rate as everyone else? The whatever the tax rate is for the city, will they be paying that same?
Madam Chair, if
Yes,
I may.
please, Director Cummings.
Thank you. The answer to that is yes. The tax rate does not change, and it will be subjected to whatever the tax rate is for that year.
So the properties that are within the TIF area, they're not paying anything extra in taxes. It's just that we are taking the money generated by the taxes on their properties to the extent that their properties have increased in value from the date that this starts. We will be using that money to make improvements in this area, correct?
Madam Chair. again.
Alderman, or I'm looking at your sign. Director Cummings, please.
That's correct. Just to be clear for the record, this is not a new tax. This is an additional tax. What it is essentially segregating whatever someone would be taxed and putting it aside.
And the money that's generated from that property, based on the values as of the beginning of this program, continue to come into the general fund of the city. It's available to the city to be used for the entire budget, just like it is now.
So again,
Director Cummings.
Madam Chair, yes, so it is, the city is kept whole, if you will. Whatever you're currently getting, you will continue to receive. The one point that I will make out, and the reason why you tend to implement this type of program, and that is because you're not guaranteed the future increment, right? So what we're doing is trying to incentivize people to come and develop, and so you hope that increment comes and shows up, and you use your TIF program in a way to leverage the private sector commitment. And right now, we don't have any projects on the books. We know of a couple out there that could potentially happen. The idea would be if we had this tool in our hand, in our back pocket, we would be able to possibly bring about that development and economic stimulation quicker, faster by having this tool available to us. So again, the base will continue to be there. We are by no means ever guaranteed the increment, but if we do get it, we would be able to use it to the benefit of this district.
Alderman Jettie, a follow-up, and then Alderman
Just to
Tenza.
conclude this line of questions, and after the improvements have been paid for, then the tax, the revenue from this increase in value would then revert back to the city's general fund.
Director Cummings.
No, I just want to make sure that it's clear that without an affirmative action of this body concluding it, that would not occur. So some TIF programs in other parts of the country, they have a certain amount of years that they're bracketed. Here in the state of New Hampshire, you're allowed to allow that to run indefinitely. And you right now would have to amend the program to expand it, to reduce it, or otherwise cancel it. And that can occur at any point.
Okay, so in your little graph,
Yep.
you know, I see the blue, which is whatever the value is now, and the income, or the tax revenue from that blue. This yellow is the increase, potential increase in revenue as a result of the increase in value of the property. But then it looks like at the end, there's this gold-colored thing, which I interpreted, says now total actual value now belongs to all taxing districts in the project area, right?
And
Did I
Cummings.
misinterpret that? I guess I did.
no, you didn't. It can be used, and it often is used to terminate at a certain period of time. You typically don't want to make that decision until you know the bond schedule that you'll be potentially implementing. Again, this particular RSA in the state of New Hampshire allows for up to a 40-year bond schedule. You would need to have your TIF in place for 40 years if you were ever to issue such a type of bond. I'm not suggesting we would ever entertain that, but 20, 30-year bonds are not unusual. That might be more applicable, but the graph just shows you that, yes, at a certain period of time, the theory being that all the money would revert back to the entire jurisdiction, and that is a goal of many, many TIFs.
Okay.
And just, Alderman Tenza, if you would allow me, Director Cummings, just for clarification, once the riverfront, what we're talking about, this proposed area, once it was taken care of and paid for, if there was a new project, you would have to come back to the Board of Aldermen to allow that project to be included in the existing TIF. Is that correct?
Absolutely, correct.
Okay, okay. Alderman Tenza.
Thank you. So, Director Cummings, we just had a presentation last week about the reassessment of the values of properties within the city, which will be happening over the next year or so. Will that reassessment have any profound impact on the values of these properties, and will it mean more or less money initially coming into the TIF if it's passed by the board?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, so the assessment, or the reassessment rather, will have no effect on the TIF, other than in terms, and what I want to be clear on, in terms of redirecting or not directing or somehow keeping money from going into the quote-unquote general fund. What potentially may occur is, I quoted a figure earlier, $250,000. That number may be higher because your assessments and your value may be higher, but I would also caution you that typically what happens is, and we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, is your values go up, but your tax rate goes down. So I'm projecting off of what we know, because we don't have a crystal ball, the tax rate being as is, stagnant, $25 and change. If the budget stays the same and there's no dramatic resources or service reductions or expansions, and you're looking at the current budget as is, your tax rate most likely will drop. So if your assessments increase, your tax rate drops, you're either going to stay around that 250 or you may go up a little bit.
Alderman Tenza.
And so if I may, the fact that we're going to potentially lock in the values as of April 1st of these buildings, but then potentially within a year, their values are gonna increase is not necessarily gonna be beneficial to the TIF.
So the base value
Mhm.
will be locked in. Any increment would be segregated to the TIF fund.
Okay.
And that would be applicable to every property in the district. I would just caution you that the values won't be changing dramatically unless they do some sort of development.
May I just have one more question? It'll come to me. So I know that we're not talking about specifics about the riverfront plan with this vote and this presentation, but hypothetically, for this area of the riverfront development project, would the revenues on the TIF cover a potential bond just for the area that this TIF covers?
It has to by law. It can only cover and be used upon within the district itself.
So we would only be able to bond as much as the TIF would cover?
As much as the TIF would cover, and it can only be used within the district itself.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Alderman Jettie and then Director Cumming.
So, so I'm having trouble understanding, I want to be in favor of this. I think,
I want you to be in favor of it.
you know, I think it's, you know, I'd like it to be a good idea, but, you know, I'm having trouble understanding the benefit to the city because we're isolating an area
Mhm.
and we're taking the money that, you know, that development in that area, the increase in money that the development in that area would bring, and we're dedicating it to making improvements in this area. So that money, that increased in value, is lost to the city as far as, you know, fire, schools, police, roads. You know, that money's lost to us. But and we're not increasing the taxes on this area, and I'm just having trouble getting my mind around, you know, why we wouldn't, you know, have the increase in value. You know, why we wouldn't. You know, how does this help us finance improvements in this area if we're taking money away from the general fund to begin with? What's the difference between just using money from the general fund to make these improvements and taxing the properties according to their, you know, as they increase in value, and having the availability of that money to be used for whatever we think the priorities are at the time? Can you help me with that?
Director Cummings, please.
Sure. And you had a lot of questions in there, so I may not cover all of them, and please correct me or remind me if I go astray. But I'm going to just very simply use an example of how we can potentially, and I'm going to talk a little out of turn because I don't want to suggest there's any priorities, but it goes to your specific point. So one, we're not guaranteed any money. We need to incentivize it. And so we know that we want to be a good public sector partner with our private sector partners. So we come to the table and we have one developer who's coming to us and saying, hey, we're in the early stages of trying to figure out how we might get development. And particularly, we know it's a priority of the city to get market rate residential development in the downtown. We think that's a great idea. We've been a good private sector partner. How do we do this? Can we figure this out? And we're saying, absolutely. We know we have an aging workforce, and we would like to see the neighborhood improve and stabilize, and we're very supportive of the concept. But as you're getting down to it, and you're trying to make the numbers work, because there's just innate challenges to development, and I'm hovering in on an area where We know that you have a waterfront and there's severe grade changes, and we know that there's underground utilities and infrastructure improvements that are necessary, and there's road work that would need to be done. And if we could have already money set aside that we can come to the table and say, okay, you're shy, there's a gap that needs to be closed, we can help you by giving you, you're putting $10 million in, we'll put $1 million in. We have a project now that pencils, and you're gonna get a 100-unit apartment building. We get 100 new families in our downtown. BAE gets potentially 100 new employees. It's a win-win. Remind you, when we first had the video up, one of the reasons why you focus on your downtown for this type of tool is because you know you drive the highest amount assessed value per density. And that's true here in the city of Nashua, where you know that your valuations are better on a per acre than anywhere else in the city. And so coupling all those reasons together, it makes sense if you believe in the theory that rising tides lifts all boats. So if we start this process of investing, you will then be able to get other neighborhoods outside of the district to invest, and that will rise the entire community up. So that's the 50,000-foot level of why you do it. Another example, just to kind of go across the river, and again, I don't want to suggest that this is a priority, but, and technically, it's not even in the district, or it might barely be in the district, depending on how you design it. But we know, we've always talked about this idea of a connection to the Broad Street Parkway. I can tell you right now, it's in our plans at about $4-ish million. That's 20 years if we just go through the traditional, these are how you fund and pay for, infrastructure projects. But if we come to the table with TIF dollars and there's an appetite in the community, and I'm not saying that there is, we might be able to bring this project forward a lot quicker, a lot sooner. That opens up a lot of development potential all in this area, as well as fix this intersection, which is a huge community benefit overall. Again, another example of why you'd look at doing something like this.
Thank you. Alderman Jettie?
So I understand what you're saying, and I understand, providing, assistance to people who are trying to develop in an area that we want developed. But when the TIF starts, there is no TIF money. So where does the TIF money come from? Because how do we, for example, make a connection to the Broad Street Parkway, at $4 million with TIF money if there isn't any money yet? These properties have not increased in value yet, so no tax revenue has been generated yet. So explain that part of it to me.
Director Cummings?
Thank you. That's a really good and complicated question. It's theoretical, and so it's on paper, and that's why I made a comment earlier that you don't want to do anything without a quote-unquote development agreement between the private sector developer and the city, because it will dictate terms that says that the city will do X if the private sector developer does Y. Well, if the Y never comes about, we want something to cover us if we have done something to make an improvement, and we want to be able to keep the city whole. And so what you're doing is essentially creating the mechanism, the tool, and have it already in our disposal so we can put it on the table when we're in serious conversations with our potential private sector partner, and let them know that we have the ability to access this if need be. And we, through forecasting and modeling and projections, know that we have a comfort level that we could issue a bond, it could be repaid, and there would be a cash flow based off of the improvement that's made.
So, may I? So
Yes.
the TIF money, there is no TIF money, but the TIF program allows us to borrow the money, get a bond borrow the money secured by the TIF money that's going to come down the road eventually.
Director Cummings.
That's right. Absolutely true. Now, you asked a question a little while back that I want to make sure we fully answer, and I want to be 100% transparent. You asked why this area of the city or the river, as opposed to maybe over by the library or the other area. And the reason why is because I can say with some level of confidence, we know we're getting private sector development over here. So we know with some confidence that we'll see in the next 5 years. We're already seeing it with Brady Sullivan. There, and part of the reason why we're here tonight is because before we miss the opportunity of capturing any of that value, we want this governance in place. And we have a timeline, April 1st. But we have 2 or 3 other projects that would be ground up development that we would be able to take advantage of to make these types of infrastructure improvements along the waterway. I cannot represent to you tonight much projects in the pipeline anywhere else. Not counting the mill yard because the city's the owner of some of the land in the mill yard, but we don't have the other type of potential that we do right here.
Other questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, in looking at this, this was assigned to budget and it was tabled. Alderman Dowd, do you know when you will be?
I believe it's going to be at the next budget meeting. I think we talked about a date, Director Cummings,
Yes.
was it the 18th?
It is.
The 18th is this Sunday.
It's not Sunday.
The 19th?
19th, Monday?
19th?
19th.
Okay. So that would get you to the meeting on the 27th of March.
That's right.
That's what we're looking at. Okay. This meeting is, my original thought was that this meeting would take the place of our meeting on the 20th. I am, willing to do whatever people feel comfortable with. We have a motion to recommend final passage, and if we would like to do that now, we can do that, or if we feel there's a need to table. We're not looking for a recommendation from budget. Alderman Dowd.
We tabled it so we could have the public hearing
Hearing,
tonight.
right.
And most everyone from the Budget Committee was here and heard the presentation. So I'm sure Director Cummings will be there, but I think it'll be a limited discussion. And I don't think, it's better if we pass it here and then take it up at budget and then it goes to the full board.
Okay, and that would be my preference also to vote on it this evening. So are there any additional questions, comments from committee members?
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
guess my only additional comment would be to reiterate something that was brought up before, that we're not voting on how we're going to be spending any money
Correct.
with this plan. It's just to put this in place. It's a plan essentially that can be revoked on April 15th if the board decides
Yes.
that that's how the board wants to proceed. So because of that, it's my preference to vote on it tonight as well.
Okay, right. And again, as Director Cummings stated at the public hearing, before anything further would move forward, there would be an advisory board put in place and things would come back to the Board of Aldermen. So this is not giving up our responsibility to consider how money is being spent in projects. So you have all heard the motion by Alderman Tenza to recommend final passage of 018-006. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries. So, Director Cummings and Director Marchand, thank you very much. And we have no other items. Oh, I have my note here. I have my note. We have no other items on our agenda, but Mayor John just at the State of the City talked about the study that some MIT students were doing related to downtown and specifically the Mill Yard. And so prior to this meeting, I just asked Director Cummings if he would just briefly give us an overview of what the purpose of the study is and how it's moving forward. So Director Cummings, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So very quickly, we were approached by MIT because they were interested in studying the city of Nashua, whether we would have an interest in being part of their graduate program for urban planning. And so 20-ish students met with us recently, and they will be going out into the community and meeting with various stakeholders and doing some analysis on 3 very specific topics. One, they're going to be looking at our workforce and our overall industry sectors and to see where our talent is and where the pipeline is for talent and see how we can align strategies to promote, incentivize, and hopefully grow that area. Secondly, look at entrepreneurism. I think the city of Nashua has a well-founded basis for entrepreneurialism from Sanders Corporation on. We have seen that spirit in the residents. It seems to be an inherent value. So we're looking to identify strategies that can help assist and promote entrepreneurism. And then finally, a planning exercise. We have the Mill Yard here in the city, which is a great asset. We could be looking at it in higher and better uses. It is constrained because it's historically part of a larger corporation, and they weren't planning on the buildings ever being subdivided and thought of as being owned by multiple entities. So there's some complications for the development, and if we could have experts come in and help us and develop some recommendations and a plan to help guide us, that is going to be particularly of interest since the city also is a large landowner within the Mill Yard. So these are 3 very specific tasks that ultimately a document will be put together this spring, outlining some recommendations and some strategies that the city can look to pursue based off of their work. I would like them to come before you, them being the students, and present. I don't have a date yet, but we would be looking for a May timeframe for a type of meeting where they can outline their thoughts to you directly.
Great, thank you. So just so you know, we will be hearing about the outcome, but I know several people made comments about what was going on after the mayor's State of the City comments. So again, thank you to both of you for this evening, and it has certainly been a long day for you. It's almost 9:30. General discussion, anything? Public comments, Mr. Shea? Remarks by Alderman? And we have no need for a non-public session. Do I have a motion? Alderman Laws?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 9:27 p.m. Thank you all very much.